All right, let's talk about the kitchen of your future. You know, the South African government has just dropped a brand new recipe on all of us for retirement. It's called the two-pot system. But hey, before you grab a spoon and dig in, we really need to ask, who's cooking these pots and is this meal actually ready to eat?
So, for the very first time, you can now get your hands on a piece of your retirement savings early. I know, it's a super tempting offer, right? Like getting a bite of a sandwich before dawn. But the big question we're going to tackle here is, just because you can take a bite, does that really mean you should?
So what's all the fuss about? What's actually changed? Well, to really get why this new recipe is such a game changer, we first got to take a quick look at how the old kitchen used to run.
For decades, your retirement savings, your pension, your provident fund, all of it was totally off limits. I mean, it didn't matter if you were starving today, that pot was padlocked shut until you hit 55. And this created a huge, huge problem, where people would do something pretty drastic, like resigning from their job, just to get their hands on their own money.
So the government finally stepped in. After years of back and forth, they've given us the two-pot system. You know, it's kind of like a parent who, after being nagged by a toddler for a cookie, finally gives in. They've unlocked a tiny part of the cookie jar, but believe me, it comes with some very, very specific rules. So what is this new recipe exactly? It's called the two-pot system. And here's the funny part, for most of us, it's actually 3 pots. Let's break down where your money is actually going to go from now on.
Okay, first up, you've got the vested pot. Just think of this as all your old savings. Every cent you put away before this new system kicked in. That money, it stays locked under the old rules. Now, every new rand you contribute gets split. 1/3 goes into a brand new savings pot. That's the one you can access. And the other 2/3, that goes into the retirement pot, which stays locked up tight.
Here's another way to picture that split. For every new rand you save, think of it like this. About 33 cents goes towards a little snack you can have once a year. The other 67 cents, though, that gets put away for the big feast you're going to enjoy when you retire.
But, and this is so important, splitting your contribution does not magically create more money. It's like the slide says, you're just breaking the cookie into 2 pieces. Still the same cookie.
And this right here brings us to the real danger. That accessible snack pot, it comes with a lot of temptation. And taking a bite has an immediate, and trust me, often bitter cost.
Look, let's be real. We are emotional creatures. We've all got that YOLO voice in our heads. And when that savings pot suddenly becomes available, it's so easy to start thinking about a trip to Sun City or that shiny new phone. But let's be crystal clear. This money is not for that. This is for a real life-or-death emergency. You know, when a tire bursts and you literally can't get to work. And the temptation today is harder to fight than ever before. I mean, in the old days, you had to actually get up and drive to a casino. Now, with sports betting apps and online gambling, the casino is right there in your pocket, making it dangerously easy to lose your way.
Okay, so let's run the numbers. Let's say you ignore all the warnings and decide, you know what, I'm going to dip my spoon in. You need cash, so you apply to withdraw 10,000 Rand from your savings pot.
But hold on. Before that money even thinks about hitting your bank account, someone else gets their share first. This withdrawal gets taxed at your marginal rate. And you can think of SARS like a big brother who just swoops in and takes a huge bite of your sandwich before you even get a chance to smell it.
So what's the painful result? Well, if your marginal tax rate is 31%, SARS immediately snatches 3,100 Rand. Your 10,000 Rand withdrawal instantly becomes less than 6,900 in your pocket after fees. That's almost 1/3 of it gone before you even hear that deposit notification on your phone.
The immediate tax hit is bad enough, for sure. But the long-term damage, that is so much worse. And this brings us to a really important lesson about patience, and it's all told through a story about a potato plant. So, picture this. I once grew this beautiful, lush potato plant, but way before the potatoes were ready, a whole troop of monkeys stormed the garden, and they just ripped the entire plant right out of the ground. And what were they left with? Nothing but a handful of dirty roots. Why? Because they didn't wait for the actual potatoes to grow.
When you withdraw from your retirement fund early, you are being that monkey. You're eating the roots. You are destroying all that potential for future growth, all for a tiny, unsatisfying meal today.
Now look, I get it. Life happens. Sometimes you're really stuck, and you might be asking, is it better to go to a loan shark, a mashonisa, or to withdraw from my savings pot? Okay, in that specific case, it is far better to borrow from your future self. Why? Well, the mashonisa is not your cousin. He might leave you bleeding. Your future self, that's you. They get it. But you have to remember you are still borrowing from them.
This timeline right here shows the true, absolutely astronomical cost of taking that little snack. If you just leave that R10,000 alone to simmer for 20 years, even at a modest 7% return, it grows to nearly R39,000. That small bite today could have been a full-on feast with cheesecake for dessert for your future self.
So, with all these warnings ringing in our ears, what's the best strategy here? How do you actually protect that future feast from all the temptations of today? Well, here's the final chef's advice.
It's actually a really simple two-step plan. First, your number one priority should be to build a separate emergency fund completely outside of your retirement savings. This is your tire burst fund. And second, once that's in place, you need to mentally lock away your retirement pots. Just pretend that savings pot doesn't even exist. Your retirement fund is like a slow-cooked meal. The longer you let it simmer, the better it gets. You want to give your future self a meal that is rich, satisfying, and so tender it's just falling off the bone. And you can only get that with patience.
So the one single thing to take away from this entire explainer is this. Resist the urge to peek under the lid. Resist the temptation of that small snack today for the promise of a magnificent feast tomorrow. Whatever you do, let it cook